Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and trace the epic evolutionary tech tree of the plant kingdom. I want you to imagine this like a grand strategy game spanning hundreds of millions of years. We're going to look at how plants started out by literally upgrading from simple single-celled aquatic algae all the way up to the massive, incredibly complex flowering angiosperms that you see outside your window today. I mean, this was a multi-million year arms race to conquer a completely barren, rocky planet. And the really cool part? The way we classify these plants today actually reveals their exact path of evolution. So, how did plants move from the water to dominating the land? Well, what's really fascinating about this question is that it frames the ultimate survival problem plants faced over millions of years, which was adapting to dry land. Just think about it. Moving from a cozy, buoyant, water-filled environment to a dry, harsh terrestrial landscape that required some massive structural overhauls. Plants had to figure out how to stand upright when they didn't have water pressure holding them up anymore, how to pull water from deep in the soil, and, absolutely crucially, how to reproduce when they couldn't just rely on their cells swimming around. To track their progress across this harsh new landscape, scientists rely on a specific evolutionary blueprint. Basically, we judge a plant's evolutionary level by looking at four major tech upgrades. First, body differentiation. Is it just a simple blob, or does it have true roots, stems, and leaves? Second, internal plumbing. Does it have a vascular system? Third is reproduction mode, so spore versus seed formation. And finally, seed protection. Are those seeds naked, or are they safely enclosed? This blueprint right here is going to map out our entire journey today. Right, so we start at the absolute base level of our tech tree. Section 1, algae, the aquatic pioneers. These are incredibly simple autotrophic organisms that live almost entirely in the water. And because they're constantly bathed in moisture, they never actually had to invent internal plumbing or rigid stems. Their bodies are simple and thalloid, which just means they lack true roots or leaves. But even at this base level, they develop some incredible diversity through their pigment tech. You've got your green algae using chlorophyll A and B, then brown algae with fucoxanthin, and finally the deep-dwelling red algae which utilize phycoerythrin. Now, why does this matter? Well, phycoerythrin allows red algae to absorb the blue light that penetrates the absolute deepest into the ocean, so they can survive where others literally can't. Oh, and they also store food as Floridian starch. This is a highly unique carbohydrate that is actually almost identical to the glycogen in our own human bodies, which is pretty wild to think about. Moving out of the water and onto the muddy edges of the land, we hit level 2, bryophytes. You'll often hear these referred to as the amphibians of the plant world. Now, while they managed to survive on terrestrial soil, they still had a massive, critical survival problem. Their male gametes literally had to swim through a layer of moisture to reproduce. To understand how they function, we have to look at their bizarre, almost alien life cycle, which is known as the alternation of generations. In bryophytes, the haploid gametophyte is the dominant independent parent phase of the plant. The diploid sporophyte child is actually physically attached to it. It acts as a literal parasite that depends entirely on the parent gametophyte for its nutrition. It's an incredibly unique evolutionary setup for sure. And within this group, we can actually watch the technology advancing in real time. You start with the liverworts, which have this very flat, kind of alien-looking thalloid body. They use this fascinating asexual reproduction hack utilizing these tiny little green buds called gemmae. But then you look at the mosses, and they level up. Their gametophyte features a creeping, branched first stage called a protonema, which eventually develops into a complex leafy stage. You can literally see them starting to look like what we'd call true plants. Next up is level 3 pteridophytes. This is the monumental vascular shift. Picture your classic ferns and horsetails. This is the exact moment plants finally evolved internal plumbing. We're talking xylem to transport water up from the soil and phloem to move nutrients around. By inventing this plumbing, plants finally found a way to fight gravity. They could pull water up from deep in the earth and grow way taller than those flat mosses ever could. And with this new tech, the biological meta shifts completely. The diploid sporophyte takes over as the dominant phase, differentiating into true roots, true stems, and true leaves for the very first time in plant history. A total game changer. Furthermore, a select few within this group unlocked an incredible new feature called heterospory. So instead of producing just one generic type of spore, they started producing two distinct types, small microspores for the male side and large megaspores for the female side. Why is this a big deal? Because this is the critical, absolute prerequisite technology needed to eventually invent the seed. Separating the male and female spores was the breakthrough that let plants eventually package a baby plant with its own built-in food source. And that massive leap brings us right to level 4, gymnosperms. Welcome to the era of the naked seeds. If peridophytes invented the plumbing, gymnosperms invented the ultimate survival capsule. By developing seeds, they completely bypassed the need for swimming gametes. This finally allowed them to colonize deep inland environments and survive freezing temperatures. Now their seeds are naked, meaning they remain completely exposed on rugged cones rather than tucked inside a delicate flower. But to survive this harsh terrain, they forged some radical biological alliances. Gymnosperms like the pinus tree literally team up with mycorrhiza fungi to extract nutrients from otherwise barren soil. Meanwhile, the cycas plant develops special roots that actually house nitrogen-fixing cyanobacteria. They literally partnered with other kingdoms of life to dominate the land. And finally, we reach the climax of our tech tree. Level 5, angiosperms, the flowering giants. These are the most diverse and widespread plants on Earth. They took that naked seed and safely enclosed it within an ovary that eventually matures into a fruit. But their absolute masterpiece? It's an exclusive reproductive combo called double fertilization. When pollen reaches the ovule, it drops off 2 sperm. It's this incredibly efficient, synchronized 2-for-1 deal. The first sperm fuses with the egg to make the baby, the diploid zygote. But the second sperm, it combines with 2 polar nuclei to create a triploid endosperm. So one sperm makes the baby, and the other makes the packed lunch to keep it alive. Honestly, it's brilliant. Within these flowering giants, we see a final major divergence, and it's based on seed structure. You have the monocots, featuring a single embryonic leaf, parallel veins, and fibrous roots. On the flip side, dicots feature 2 cotyledons, net-like leaf venation, and deep taproots. And the real-world stakes here are just massive. Think about it. Monocots represent almost all the grasses and grains, like maize, wheat, and rice, that literally feed human civilization today. Dicots make up the massive oak trees, the flowering roses, and the delicious fruits we eat. Together, they form the foundation of our world. To truly understand how plants conquer the Earth so thoroughly, we need to look at the culmination of this entire journey: plant life cycles. The shift in how plants spend their cellular lives is honestly just as dramatic as the physical shift from water to land. We started with those simple algae, which have a haplantic life cycle, completely relying on single-copy haploid genetics. Then, we moved to the transitional edge of land with bryophytes exhibiting a haplodiplontic cycle. Finally, we arrived at the highly advanced gymnosperms and angiosperms, which utilize a diplontic life cycle. Now, why is this better? Well, having double-copy diploid genetics acts as evolutionary armor. It gives these terrestrial powerhouses a backup copy of their DNA to survive the harsh radiation, massive temperature swings, and the generally unpredictable nature of living permanently on dry land. So we've gone from a simple thallus floating in a pond to the invention of internal plumbing, to the creation of the seed, and finally, to the stunning complexity of double fertilization and fruiting flowers. Every single challenge the Earth threw at them, plants answered with a breathtaking new biological technology. Which leaves us with one final fascinating thought. Given their incredible adaptation and this millions of years track record of relentless upgrades, as our planet's climate and environments continue to shift around us, what radical adaptations will the plant kingdom evolve next?